So I'm putting together a potential performance upgrade for my sister's RX50. This engine, to my understanding, uses the same engine that's in the YSR50, or at least pretty similar to. This bike's all stock, it's low miles, it's got the factory carb pipe, I mean it's bone stock. Looking to get a little bit more out of the bike. Right now the bike very rarely will get above 9,000 RPM, and we're trying to get a little bit more out of the bike. So hunted around for carburetor upgrades. We're going to start here because as far as I know there is no like direct drop-in pipe. There is a DG pipe for the YSR. I don't know if it fits. I'd want to know before you go spend $450 on the pipe for it to not to fit, or you'd have to hack and weld. Anyways, it uses this clamp style intake. Those with these bikes or a YSR are familiar. Actually, I think the YSR uses a 2-bolt. Unsure of the size of this yet. We'll take it off in a second to measurement, but through some digging I found that the DT100 carb, similar in style, has the oil injection port on the side, because this injects into the carburetor, not the manifold. And then I got the corresponding reed block and intake manifold. So we're going to go ahead and get this carb off, put them side by side, and get some measurements to see how big these two are. So I got the factory carbs off, or the factory carb off. This is the factory on the left. This is the DT100 carb. Obviously the DT100 carb is larger. They both have oil injection on the side, same choke, similar kind of footprint. Measuring, I know this isn't the best way to measure the carb, but just as a relative comparison, I measured the inside here for this, the slides on both. This measures in at 18.5 millimeters, and this measures in at 22.5 millimeters. So roughly 4 millimeter difference in the slide diameter. So also interesting enough, this is the reed block off the DT100. It is the exact same reed block that is on the RX50. So this dimension is not changed whatsoever. And then here is the clamp style intakes, for consistency purposes. This is the factory one, this is the DT100 one. Same bolt layout, but obviously the orifice is much different. So gonna get this slapped on. I took this apart. It's got a 130 main and a 17.5 idle jet. I'm not sure if I said that already, but I'm gonna slap that in there and see where it is. So the carburetor ends up being a direct bolt-on reed block. Like I said, it lines up. There's actually more clearance on this carburetor than there is on the factory carb. I think the angle is a little bit different. A little bit modification to the sleeve for the throttle cable, but nothing major. Oil line hooks up. The reason it's kind of in a temporary position here because I've been going through jetting. This came with a 17.5 idle jet. 15 is more appropriate. The factory one's a little too rich, and then the 130 main jet I've up to 155, and that seems to be pretty happy. So next order of business is to make a boot here to retain the factory air box. It's kind of on an angle, and so this is going to take some work. Probably going to end up cutting up maybe a radiator hose or something along the lines and just clamping it just to make that connection there. So stay tuned, and we'll get this thing going.
So just a few notes after we've swapped out the carburetor. The pickup and acceleration is much quicker than the original stock carburetor. However, the low transient response does suffer a little, but it is tremendous at top speeds, so definitely worth the switch.